Have you ever wondered why your brain gets tricked by optical illusions? It's a question that has piqued the curiosity of many, sparking an intrigue that goes beyond mere fascination. These captivating phenomena known as optical illusions have a unique way of fooling our eyes and making us question our perception of reality. Imagine, for a moment, a time when you were utterly deceived by an optical illusion. A moment when lines seemed to bend, static images appeared to move, or flat surfaces took on a three-dimensional form. It's an experience that leaves many of us scratching our heads in wonder. But what if we told you that the mystery of optical illusions is not so much about your eyes, but about your brain? That's right. The core intrigue lies in the science behind how our brains interpret these illusions. So buckle up as we delve into the captivating world of optical illusions. Prepare to embark on an insightful journey into the world of optical illusions. To understand optical illusions, it is essential to grasp the basics of how we perceive the world around us. Our perception of reality is a complex process that begins with our eyes, our primary sensory organs for light. Imagine you're looking at a tree. Light from that tree enters the eye, passing through the cornea and the lens, which focus the light onto the retina, a light-sensitive layer of cells at the back of the eye. This light is converted into electrical signals, which are then sent to the brain through the optic nerve. Now here's where the magic happens. The brain, specifically the visual cortex, interprets these signals, converting them into an image. It's the brain's interpretation of these signals that gives us our perception of reality. So when you're looking at that tree, you're actually seeing the brain's interpretation of the light reflected off the tree. Isn't that fascinating? But the brain doesn't just passively receive and interpret signals. It's an active participant in the process, constantly predicting and making assumptions based on past experiences. For instance, it knows that objects further away appear smaller, so it adjusts the size of the objects in our field of vision accordingly. This predictive nature of the brain plays a crucial role in our perception. It helps us make sense of the world quickly and efficiently, without having to analyze every single detail. However, it's not infallible. It's based on the assumption that the world behaves in a certain way, which isn't always the case. For example, think about when you see a stick in water. It appears bent, right? That's because light behaves differently in water than it does in air. The brain, however, doesn't account for this change, leading to the misperception that the stick is bent. But sometimes, this interpretation process can go awry, leading to optical illusions. These are instances where the brain's predictions and assumptions contradict the actual physical properties of what we're seeing, causing us to perceive things that aren't really there or misperceive things that are. And that's what we'll delve into in the next scene. Optical illusions occur when our brain tries to make sense of what our eyes see, but gets it wrong. It's a delightful paradox, isn't it? We rely on our brains to interpret the world around us, yet sometimes they play tricks on us. This is the enchanting world of optical illusions. So how do these illusions work? Well, they cleverly exploit the brain's usual interpretation processes. Our brains are wired to make quick judgments and assumptions about the world to help us navigate through life. These assumptions are typically based on patterns, past experiences, and expectations. Most of the time, this system works perfectly fine. But optical illusions toss a monkey wrench into these processes, causing us to see things that aren't there or perceive things differently than they are. Take the classic Rubin's vase illusion, for example. This simple image can be seen as either a vase or two faces staring at each other. Here, the brain struggles to decide whether the white space is the object in focus or the black space. This is because our brains are naturally inclined to perceive objects as being in front of backgrounds. Then there's the famous spinning dancer illusion, where a silhouette of a spinning dancer can be perceived to rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. This illusion messes with our perception of depth and direction, demonstrating how our brains can interpret two-dimensional images as three-dimensional. Finally, consider the checker shadow illusion, where two squares of the same color appear different due to the perceived shadow. This illusion illustrates how our brains use surrounding context to determine the color and brightness of objects. All these examples show how our brains, in their quest to make sense of the world, can sometimes lead us down a garden path of misinterpretation. It's a humbling reminder of the complexity of our perception and the power of our minds. But it's also a testament to the wondrous workings of the human brain and the fascinating ways in which it can be fooled. After all, isn't it captivating how our own brains can deceive us? There are several types of optical illusions, each one exploiting a different aspect of our perception. First, let's talk about physiological illusions. These are the result of the eye's prolonged stimulation by brightness, color, size, position, tilt, and movement. They're best described as the after images we see when we've stared at a bright light or a colorful object for too long. Essentially, our eyes get tired and send mixed signals to our brain, creating an illusion. Next are cognitive illusions. These are quite interesting as they involve higher levels of the brain and are often divided into ambiguous illusions, distorting illusions, and paradox illusions. Ambiguous illusions are those that can be interpreted in more than one way. Think of the famous Rubens vase, where you might see either a vase or two faces, but never both at the same time. Distorting illusions, on the other hand, make us perceive shapes, lengths, and colors inaccurately. The Ponzo illusion, where two identical lines appear to be of different lengths due to their positioning, is a classic example. And finally, paradox illusions. These are impossible objects that could never exist in reality, like the Penrose triangle, which seems to defy the laws of geometry. Lastly, we have pareidolia, a type of illusion where the mind perceives a familiar pattern of something where none actually exists. This is why we sometimes see faces in clouds, or why some people claim to see the man in the moon. It's our brain's way of making sense of random information. So whether it's our eyes getting a little tired, our brain trying to make sense of ambiguous or distorted information, or our inherent need to find patterns, optical illusions are always at work, challenging our perception of reality. Each type of optical illusion provides a unique insight into how our brains interpret the world around us. Now, let's dive into some of the most famous optical illusions and uncover the science behind them. First up is the Rubin vase. This is a classic example of a figure ground illusion where your brain can switch between seeing a vase in the center or two faces in profile on the sides. It all boils down to how your brain processes visual information. When we look at an image, our brain decides what part is the figure or the main focus, and what part is the ground or the background. In this case, your brain can't decide, so it flips back and forth, giving us the illusion. Next, we have the mind-boggling phenomenon of the dress. Some see it as blue and black, others as white and gold. This illusion capitalizes on color constancy, the idea that a colored object will appear the same under different lighting conditions. However, because the image is ambiguous, our brains make assumptions about the lighting source, which creates the color discrepancy. Finally, let's look at the Penrose triangle. This impossible object appears to be a triangle, but upon closer inspection, it's clear that it can't exist in the real world. This illusion works by exploiting the brain's understanding of perspective. Our brains are used to seeing 3D objects in a 2D format, so when we see an image that doesn't fit our understanding of perspective, our brains try to fill in the gaps, creating the illusion of a possible object. These famous illusions demonstrate the power and complexity of our perception. It's a gentle reminder that our perception of reality is constructed in our minds, and sometimes our brains can be tricked. It's also a testament to the fascinating interplay between psychology and neuroscience, revealing how much we still have to learn about the intricate workings of the human mind. So the next time you see an optical illusion, remember, it's not just a trick of the eye, but a glimpse into the captivating world of perception and brain function. These famous illusions demonstrate the power and complexity of our perception. So, what can we learn from optical illusions? Well, they're not merely tricks of the eye or amusing diversions. They're an invitation to delve deeper into the mind's intricacies. Optical illusions serve as a testament to our brain's remarkable ability to interpret the world around us, often filling in gaps and making assumptions based on our previous experiences and expectations. These fascinating phenomena highlight that perception is not merely a passive receipt of information, but an active process. Understanding optical illusions can also shed light on the functions of different regions of our brain, and how they collaborate to construct our reality. It's a thrilling journey through the realms of neuroscience, psychology, and even philosophy as we grapple with questions about reality and perception. Optical illusions not only entertain us, but they also provide valuable insights into the workings of our brains. Keep exploring and you'll continue to be amazed by the wonders of science.